23-year-old Charles Quentin McCormick Jr., aka Lil Buck, was back home following a trip to Las Vegas. Lil Buck was in Jacksonville, Florida, on the hunt for job opportunities. Unbeknownst to McCormick, danger lurked nearby in a stolen Nissan Altima. As McCormick entered an employment agency, with a folder in hand, three sinister figures lay in wait, monitoring him with malicious intent. As Lil Buck stepped outside, someone ambushed him with a rifle, with the shooter being seen on bystander dashcam footage. A single bullet narrowly missed Lil Buck, striking the employment agency window behind him. Heart pumping, he ran for his life, a shooter hot on his heels. Unable to successfully escape, Lil Buck ended up on the ground, the shooter standing over him, pumping at least 5 rounds into his body. McCormick's life had been snuffed out in mere moments, but the chaos had only just begun. The sudden visibility of an off-duty Jacksonville cop caused panic for the suspects. Stunned and shocked, the cop had witnessed everything, and gave chase. A frantic pursuit through Jacksonville streets ensued, with the suspect car colliding with a tree in a residential community. Homeowners watched 2 black men bail, sprinting through yards as residents locked their doors. As the men ran through yards, a video showed them hopping a fence, continuing to sprint through backyards. Meanwhile, Lil Buck lay deceased in the parking lot, his family yet to hear the devastating news that would cause their world to come crashing down. It was yet another senseless shooting that had claimed a young man's life. The 2 suspects would home invade a property blocks from the crash site, taking the homeowner hostage. Her husband, who was not home at the time, later told the news that he felt grateful that she wasn't killed by the 2 men. Kept on the couch under threat of violence, the woman later recalled one of the suspects having tattoos as he tried to strangle her. This would come back to bite the suspect, but for now, the pair were in control. They changed into the husband's clothing, and called for a ride to escape the neighborhood, which was soon to be flooded with law enforcement, including SWAT, a K-9 team, and police helicopter. As authorities began to piece together the puzzle, a chilling picture emerged. Lil Buck's ties to the local rap scene hinted at a targeted attack, sparking fears of escalating gang conflict. Buck, who had recorded and been in music videos with local rapper Julio Fulio, had lost many close friends to gun violence. His Facebook posts show that he was struggling to cope emotionally, with his decision to look for legitimate employment seemingly being his way to start a new chapter. Sadly, it only set him up for his demise. Lil Buck's case began to gain momentum, as suspects came into the frame. Forensic evidence and eyewitness accounts slowly unraveled the story, leading investigators to a web of suspects with ties to the streets. As a family mourned their son, grappling with the harsh realities of life in a city plagued by gang violence, more families were about to be torn apart. Hakeem Robinson, aka Ksoo, was a local Jacksonville rapper connected to ATK, a gang most known for beefing with another gang called KTA. The 2 gangs have been suspected in different shootings, with 2 cases standing out. The brother of Ksoo, Willie Boss Goon Addison, emerged from Florida State Prison following a 6-year sentence on burglary and perjury convictions. With a desire to go legitimate, Addison became Boss Goon, an up-and-coming rapper in the city. Unfortunately for Boss Goon, fate had other plans. Having performed at a local birthday party, Addison, his father, his other brother, and some friends all hopped into a silver Chevrolet Tahoe. A short distance from the Gentleman's Club, the car pulled up to some traffic lights. It was at this point that at least 2 cars, which had been tailing the group, rolled down their windows, with multiple suspects opening fire on the vehicle. Abdul Robinson, the father of Boss Goon and Ksoo, would speak on the incident. He believed that it could have been up to 3 cars, with over 100 rounds being fired in total. Just when it seemed like the darkness of his past was fading, tragedy struck in the most brutal of ways. Boss Goon, and all 5 vehicle occupants would make it to hospital. Sadly, Boss Goon passed away from his injuries. Fast forward to February 25, 2019, and another murder would continue the never-ending cycle of violence within Jacksonville. This time, 16-year-old Adrian Gaynor Jr., known as Bibby, fell victim to gun violence. Him and another boy would be chased down by 2 shooters. It would turn out that Bibby was the brother of Jacksonville rapper Julio Fulio. Rewinding back to 2020, and the murder of Lil Buck was starting to pick up steam. Hairs, a pistol emblazoned with Hakeem Robinson's fingerprints, and an AR rifle, had been discovered in the getaway car, hinting at him having been in the car at some point. Earlier on, and the victim of the harrowing home invasion identified Dominique Barner as one of her assailants during a lineup. Barner's distinctive arm tattoos, seen during his strangulation attempt, served as damning evidence against him, placing him at the second crime scene. As the investigation continued, Barner took a fateful step, confiding in a jailhouse informant. Little did he know, he would become an asset for law enforcement, further burying himself and his co-defendants later on. Barner peeled back the layers, revealing all to the informant, who was recording the entire thing. Barner said that it was him who was driving the car on the Lil Buck hit, alongside Hakeem Robinson and Leroy Whitaker. Together, they had stalked Lil Buck from his home, Robinson and Whitaker armed with an AR pistol and AR rifle respectively. Barner claimed the plan took a sinister turn when Robinson, fueled by a desire for revenge, capitalized on the moment to end Lil Buck's life, hawking him down and snuffing him out. According to Barner, Lil Buck had dissed Boss Goon in a song. Not only did he implicate himself, but dashcam footage also placed Barner at the crime scene, showing him behind the wheel. Barner would go on to mention the police chase, and the fact that Abdul Robinson, the father of Ksoo, had arrived to pick up Whitaker, and himself following the home invasion. By this point, the informant was probably rubbing his hands together, having managed to finesse such an incriminating step-by-step account of events out of the getaway driver. Although Barner's perspective is likely going to be very detrimental to Robinson, you can't always lay the blame on the snitch. Hakeem Robinson's own digital footprint paved the path to his eventual downfall. His reckless music video lyrics and social media activity, dripping with disdain for the deceased, painted a damning portrait of guilt. With Barner's confession probably sealing their fate, Robinson and Whitaker are now facing a life sentence. Yet, for Hakeem Robinson, the nightmare only intensified. In March 2021, he was charged with murder in the case of 16-year-old Adrian Gaynor Jr. Robinson's future now looks even more bleak, should he be found guilty in the cases. As the trial for the Lil Buck murder begins in August, Robinson has more time to reflect on how he ended up in such a terrible position. The odds stacked against Robinson seem insurmountable. Even his own father, Hakeem Robinson Sr., has now turned against him, a betrayal unthinkable to most people. As all involved await a sentence, it becomes painfully clear that there are no winners. Lives have been lost, families have been broken, and futures have been obliterated. With a life sentence on the table, Hakeem Robinson's once promising rap career has now been silenced by the suffocating confines of a jail cell, as it approaches 4 years since his arrest. As we reflect on these tragic cases, let us remember those whose lives were lost or forever altered by the cycle of violence which continues to play out in Jacksonville. The toxic gang culture across America isn't going away, with violence and death being a part of everyday life for many. It is important to remember that being dealt a bad hand doesn't seal your fate. If you're trapped in a bad headspace or environment, use that struggle as a means to motivate yourself to succeed. Don't let your present situation determine your future.